there is a scripture that tells you how to check if you're a child of the devil or the child of God. So this is 1 John chapter 3, verse 10. In this the children of God and the children of the devil are manifest. Whoever does not practice righteousness is not of God. So, if you practice righteousness, that means if you are able to live holy, then you are a child of God. But if you keep sinning, then that tells you you are a child of the devil. So children of God are holy just as God is holy. So it says here, 1 John chapter 3 verse 7. Little children, let no one deceive you. He who practices righteousness is righteous, just as he is righteous. He who sins is of the devil. So you gotta not fool yourself. So if you're a child of God, then you will be living holy, just as God is holy. But what Christians believe nowadays is, if you just believe Jesus, then you are born again. But what's happening is, Jesus-believing Christians are living in sin, and they think that they are born again. But what does this scripture tell you? It says, let no one deceive you. So the Christians are being deceived right now. So you gotta realize, if you are living a sinful life, then you are a child of the devil. So what should you do? Then you have to be born again. So how can you be born again? It's not by just believing Jesus. So it's obvious that to be born again, you have to live holy, but we all know that the Christians are not living holy. So although they believe Jesus, they are not able to live holy. So that's not how you become born again. So it's very obvious. So how do you become born again? It's in the book of John. And how to be born again is laid out in the parable of vine and the branches. So it says, whoever remains in me and I in him bears much fruit, but without me you can do nothing. Whoever does not bear much fruit are cut off and thrown into the fire. So the fruits are the actions that come out of people. So whoever does not produce good fruits, they are cut off and they are thrown into the fire. That means lake of fire. So this is talking about salvation. So if you become the branches that produce good fruits, that means you live righteous, you practice righteousness, and you live holy. If you become that kind of branches, then you are not thrown into the lake of fire, but you are saved. So this is talking about being born again to be saved. So because Jesus said, no one is able to enter the kingdom without being born again. So how do you become born again? So he says, whoever remains in me, I in him. So you have to remain in Jesus to be born again. So how do you do that? So remaining in Jesus and letting Jesus in you are the same. So how do you let Jesus inside of you? That means because Jesus is Lord, you have to let him sit in the center of you. Normally you are the center, so you decide what to do with your life. But if you let him sit in the center of you, then you let him make the decision with your life. So instead of living for yourself and your pleasure in this world, you decide to obey Jesus and live for him. And you decide to obey his laws and decide to live according to his words. So that's how you become born again. So now you should realize why Jesus-believing Christians are not able to live holy. Because they only believe Jesus, but they haven't denied themselves to follow Jesus. And they haven't let Jesus be the Lord of their lives. That's why they are not able to live holy. So Jesus said in the Bible, without me you can do nothing. That means without Jesus in the center of you, you cannot produce good fruits. So that is exactly why Jesus-believing Christians are not able to produce good fruits and live holy. So if you find yourself keep living in sin, and no matter what you try, you just remain as a slave to sin, then you gotta realize you are a child of the devil. So you have to be born again to become a holy child of God. So it says, 1 John chapter 3 verse 8, He who sins is of the devil, for the devil has sinned from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. So if you can't get out of the slavery of sin, then you need Jesus to destroy that chain that binds you. So if you just believe Jesus but do not obey Jesus to follow him, then the chains that bind you will not be broken. So how can he break your chains? Like I told you, you have to let him become the Lord of your life and decide to obey him in your life. Then he will break the chain. So he says, he might destroy the works of the devil. He will break free from the bondage of sin. So that's what I experienced. So I believed Jesus in my whole life, but I still lived in sin. I could not get out of the sin of sexual immorality. No matter how I tried, I couldn't get out of it. But when I decided to live for Jesus, I was released from that bondage of sin. And I began to be able to live a holy life. So this is real. This parable of vine and branches is exactly what I experienced in my life. So if you decide to follow Jesus and live for him, then you will experience the same thing. And you will break free from the bondage of sin and be born again as a child of God. I wish you blessings from the Lord.